What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Writers. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about Kamen Rider Gotchard episode 42. I'm your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Toby Tobes. How's it going, Toby?
Pretty good, Josh. Josh, today's mini bullshit comes to you from the fine folks at Subway.
Just so everyone knows, that's M-A-N-Y, not M-I-N-E. But go on.
Wait, what word did I say?
You said it was your mini bullshit, and I was like, yeah, you're on your many bullshit.
Yeah,
you have more than one. Go on.
So today's ridiculous slate comes from the fine people at Subway,
the sandwich artists.
The sandwich artists. I'm going to preface this now. I don't really care that much. I just think it's stupid, and I think it's a funny story to share with people.
Okay.
So in the old days, went to Subway. You get a hoagie, a sub, a hero, a grinder, whatever your national, regional dialect is for a sandwich and a big bun.
I think Subway sells sandwiches. Subway sandwiches.
Subway subs, you moron.
But they're called Subway sandwiches. They don't
They're
call
Subway
them subs.
That's why you're in the sub club.
Oh, okay. I guess they do call it sub club. Why are they called sandwich artists and not sub artists then?
I don't know. Subway sandwich.
Right?
I don't know.
All right.
Anyway,
go on.
So in the good old days, I could stroll in and be like, hey, can I get a footlong tuna? Can I get a BMT, which is bigger, meaty,er and tastier? A very stupid name.
That's not what it stands for. No, really?
Yeah, it always did.
Oh my God. I'm just learning that. That's insane.
This is one of those good ones where I tell you some completely obtuse 25-year-old thing and you go, no.
I didn't know. I've been eating at Subway for decades. I didn't know that.
Okay. Well, since I said it very fast, they have a sandwich called a BMT, and it stands for bigger, meatier, and tastier, which is already kind of stupid, but it's basically just like every Italian meat. So effectively, it's an Italian hoagie.
Yeah.
So I haven't been there for years. There's all these commercials now like, oh, come order the number 17. Shaquille O'Neal made this one. Or come order the number 30 because Steph Curry made this one. So any normal hoagie, they've now switched into a sports star made this food.
Yeah, sure.
And there's not it's not just like a cheesesteak now. It's like a double Philly cheesesteak slider style and all sorts of stupid names.
Yeah.
So the other day I went with my gram. She was like, can we go get Subway for lunch? I said,
Good
sure.
choice.
I'll get you some hoagies. So we're going to start this with Subway footlongs used to be $5 when I was growing up.
Well,
even in the past 10 years, Subway used to be $5 for a footlong.
But then there was it was $5 footlong was a certain day, I think.
Because they switched it. Because that's when they started cheapening up.
Yes.
So I took her for 2 footlong Italian hoagies, BMTs, as the people say. That tab ran me $25.
Okay.
For 2 footlongs.
Yeah. That sounds like the current hellscape that we live in. Yep.
Yeah. I could go to Wawa. It's fucking Hoagie Fest right now, and they're $6 for a footlong. And it's not that much better food. Wawa's probably better. Or Sheetz or whatever the hell hoagie place you have. But, so I walk in, and I'm like, okay, I know vaguely they have Italians, it's BMT, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to find the words on the board to make sure, and I'm going to order food for my gram. So I'm standing in line, and luckily there's people in front of me. Because the menu now is not just names of the food, it's giant numbers to go with a combo.
Sure.
A BMT is now a number 17. Just because some sports stars probably named the number 17 and was like, I like fucking BMTs, I want this hoagie. So I start getting confused by this and remotely irritated. But I'm like, no big deal. I can roll with it, Josh. It's not that much of a thing. And then I realized the numbers on the board were not in numerical order. So the first row of hoagies was 17, 3, 22, 8. So I'm looking at it and I start laughing and I'm like, this is really irritating. And I was like, I'm going to tell Josh, and then the podcast seemed like a better place to do it. So not only that, they have numbers, but there's only 25 meals, but the numbers go up to 40. So I was quick scrolling the menu and there's no number 5. You can get a 4, a 7, or an 8. But there's literally no 5.
Because it's probably the thing you're saying where the sports star wanted a specific number. So they just ran up the numbers to get to that one.
And they have them categories by style. The chicken was 20 and 31 and something else. But the numbers aren't even in order then. So it wasn't like the fucking hoagies were like 5, 10, 15, 20.
This
It
is
was
a
literally
nightmare.
40, comma 3, comma 17, comma 7. And then like the next row was random numbers too. So I was sitting there like silently panicking of like, I need to find a fucking Italian hoagie on this menu as fast as possible because they're going to ask me some dumb number with some dumb name and I'm going to have a panic attack. Like this is going to be a nightmare.
I'm gonna have a panic attack. I'm gonna lose my freaking cool here. I'm attempting a pickup right now at a Subway near me. I'm hoping they'll show me the numbering on the website, but they might not. We'll see. Subway
I think
website takes ages to load, by the way. Okay, let me just. this Subway has lost their goddamn mind. All right, I'm not gonna read the names of the sandwiches. I'm just gonna read the numbers in the order in which they are presented on this website. Okay, everyone, strap in. Number 1, number 20, number 11, number 10, number 23, number 18, number 15, number 99, number 21, number 6, number 22, number 31. They have 15 sandwiches that I can choose from. No, 12 sandwiches that I can choose from, ranging from number 1 to number 99. Many numbers left out, obviously, and in no discernible order.
And it's hilarious because like I found the picture that I took of the menu real quick just so I could reference it during this conversation.
Uh-huh.
Even the numbers you just rattled off in order do not fit any category that's on the fucking menu in the store. Like you threw 99 in there, which is a home run ham.
Home run ham, baby.
But like the one before that's Titan Turkey at 15. But like you didn't say 15 before you said 99. You said some other number.
No, I actually did say 15 before 99. So at least that's consistent with what I'm seeing here. The second row for me goes 23, 18, 15, 99.
Yeah, that's not on the menu. That's like a club, a deli hero, a chicken sandwich, and like a cheesesteak.
The ultimate BMT is number 18 here.
That's what I got. But now it's an ultimate BMT, and it's not just a BMT.
Oh boy, this is insane. I've never seen something this is crazy. This feels like they've just given up all semblance of order, and this is just a restaurant chain just run on pure anarchy at this point. Who allowed this? I also saw, I don't know if you made it in time for the Dr. Disrespect Subway ads, but apparently they pulled those today.
Shocker.
Subway apparently had a wonderful campaign where, as you were talking about, with stars coming up with their special versions of sandwiches, they had a Dr. Disrespect sandwich and a bunch of pictures of Dr. Disrespect up. And if you haven't heard the news on Twitch streamer Dr. Disrespect, turns out he was sexually messaging minors. So now he's like hardcore canceled, basically.
For like the fifth time in his career.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's been in hot water before, but this is definitely the hottest water that he's been in. And probably, I'm assuming, will be pretty done for at this point. But even Subway was like, yeah, we're not touching this. Listen, we'll go out here and we'll do any number you want on a sandwich. It's all good. Subway doesn't give a fuck. You've heard of Jared, right? Like, we've been through the shit before.
I was going to say, like, that was the first thing I thought of, especially as you were saying this. Like, obviously, the Jared thing is not funny. It's fucking disgusting. But it's crazy. We're like, the Jared bullshit was months upon years. Dr. Disrespect, they got rid of in a week.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm glad they stepped up their, being human beings game a little bit.
Did they not drop Jared like pretty quickly after the whole stuff came out of him?
I feel like the rumors and stuff were there long before they did anything. But yeah.
How crazy is it that one sandwich chain has now had to drop 2 different spokespeople because of this for the same sort of, like, I know Jared was much worse, but like, or as we know of, but like, but still, it's like, can one person who is on our fucking sandwich signs not talk to little girls, please? Can we just stop with this?
Yeah,
like, someone at Subway is just like, again, it happened again. Or maybe they're not. Maybe that's what Subway's into. I don't know. Toby, I used to eat at Subway pretty much, like, not every day, I guess, but like Probably about 3 times a week, I would eat lunch at Subway because it was right across from where I worked, and I hated eating at work because people would wanna talk to me, and I didn't wanna talk to people, so I would go to Subway. Um, and I stopped going to Subway when they started making their salads because it was the most disgusting looking thing that I've ever seen compiled in a restaurant, that I wasn't even ordering the salad, and it made me never wanna go there again for fear of seeing one of the salads.
Wasn't there salads that all the lettuce was preset in a big plastic tray, and then they just added whatever toppings you wanted? That from like the sandwich bar thing?
Well, yeah, kind of, yes. So essentially, it's like they start with lettuce, you put whatever toppings you want on it, which is kinda weird enough in general that you're just sort of getting the sandwich toppings on your salad because then it just looks like a sandwich when you're at the end. But then at the end, then when it gets really bad, they would chop it. So it was a chopped salad. So they would get what looked like at least kind of a reasonable salad, and then they would just like have the special cutter and they would just chop it to just smithereens. And you'd end up with these like tiny little like squares of lettuce and meat and stuff. And it looked like it was just like had already been chewed up and spit out. And it was so gross. I don't know how anyone ever ate them because literally I saw it happen one time and I was like, I can't stand here and watch any more of that happen. I can't go back here. And I didn't go to Subway for years after that. And I've only recently gone back.
It's funny you mentioned the lunch thing. So I've been doing my IT-ish job for I think like 16 years now at this point. I told the story before. At my first job, we had a cafeteria, like a real like, hey, we'll make you whatever food you want kind of cafeteria. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like adult jobs, this is awesome. And the first week I was there, as people started realizing I was the computer person, I literally couldn't have a moment to myself at lunch because no one else would ever give a fuck that I was eating my food. And just be, they didn't even do the thing of like, hey, I see you're eating, but just real quick, do you know what's going on with my computer? Or, I see you're eating, but real quick, like, can you give me 5 minutes? Can you swing by my office when you're done? Can you do this? And so many people interrupted my lunch that since that day, that fateful day, like 16 years ago, I literally refused to eat in a cafeteria with coworkers unless they're directly on my team and we're like hiding in a corner somewhere. And that's completely broken me from ever wanting to eat at a job. Because when you're in a service role, people are the worst. I mean, people are the worst in general, but they're fucking nightmares, especially when you fix computers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So that would happen to me at that job. So that job was I was one of like a couple developers um in a larger company that wasn't super tech focused, right? So we would write the software that like the people who were working in the office would use. So it was like our customers like sat like 2 desks away from us, which meant that they could just pop up at your desk at any moment and be like, "Hey, can you fix this thing like right now?" And it'd be like, "Well, I'm working on other things." Like, like I'm your problem is on my list, but it's like 10th on my list, and I'm sorry. So we ended up moving to a different like office suite across the hall, literally just to get away from people. So it was harder for them. They couldn't do it like on the way to the copier and stop by our desk. They had to actually make the effort to walk across the hall and come over to our area. just to like cut down on like a few of those conversations a day because it was ridiculous.
Yeah, the mix between that and the people that they would email me. I would see it. Didn't like them, so I wouldn't answer them. They would wait to a couple minutes, then the IM would come, and they'd be like, "Hey, are you there?" And then I would ignore it because, again, I didn't like them. I wasn't going to help them right away. They were on my list of like, I'll get to you last because you're a fucking asshole. And then inevitably, they would come to at the first job because that was the main help desky one. Our help desk office basically looked like a snack stand where like the top half of the door would open and close. So you could always keep the bottom half closed and it had a little ledge.
Oh, that's
you could
nice.
open the top half. So we're actually in like our own little box and not just like cubicles. But people would come to the door then, knock on the door that was open to think they were funny, make a joke about ordering food,
Of
or
course.
then go, "Hey, did you see all those messages I sent you?" So now at this point, I have to lie and say, "Oh, no, I didn't notice, but I did notice." And now they're right there in my face, and they're like, "I need you to come here for a second. I need your help." And then I would panic because I was young and didn't know any better, or like it was still a new job, whatever, and be like, yeah, I guess. And I get suckered into it. But people are persistent when they want something.
They
That's for damn
are.
sure.
Yeah. I think everybody probably who's worked in an office knows the person who does pretty much what you were describing. Like there was always like someone that I worked with that would do the thing where, like you said, like send an email, immediately send the IM, where usually the message is like, "Did you see my email?" and then sometimes drops by your desk and like, "Hey, just sent you an IM and an email." Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like,
Or the worst, the actual worst is, so at time of recording, I'll call it 8:36 Toby time right now. At 8:36, they would IM me and be like, "Hey, I need help." And by the time I could even remotely acknowledge the IM, it'd be like 8:37 or 8:38, and they'd be at the door ready and go, "Hey, I just IM'd you. I need help." And it's like, I couldn't even
cool.
breathe on this yet. Like,
Yeah. I haven't had the chance to even like process whether help is possible for you. Yeah, people are the worst is really what we're on about today.
yeah. And speaking of the worst people, Josh, we have a Patreon.
We do have a Patreon. It's filled with the worst people in the Discord. If you want to join the whole gang of the worst, if you want to be included in the worst, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/the comment writers. And Toby, not to brag, but I think it's pretty cool, our
it
Patreon and what we've got
it's a
going on
fun
over there.
place to be. Everyone has their cool sandwich numbers. So like, just because Josh and I were the ones that made the Discord doesn't make Josh and I number 1 and number 2.
No,
Like Josh could be number 40. You never know until you get there.
that's true. If you want to order a Josh, you look up at the board, you find number 69, you go, nice. And you say, I'll take that. And that's what I am. But yeah, patreon.com/the comment writers, of course, gets you access to our Discord. And for $3 a month, which is nothing, Toby. That's less than a coffee. That's less than a coffee these days.
For
Uh,
4 months, you get one Subway sandwich at $12 per foot.
That's real shit right there. The Patreon for $3 gets you access to all of our bonus content that we post, which generally comes in the form of what we call watch and reacts, which are kind of like Mystery Science Theater, but for Kamen Rider, and now also for Super Sentai. So every week we are watching right now Kamen Rider O's and Boon Boomjer, and we post new episodes. You can watch those shows along with us. And if you sign up now, you get access to all of our back catalog of watch and react shows as well, which includes the entirety of Kamen Rider X-Aid, including several films, the entirety of Kamen Rider Black Sun, and yeah, now you can catch up and be up to date with O's and Boon Boomjer for us as well. So lots of content. We are, I think, nearing our 100th piece of watch and react content. Toby, we're like right around the corner there.
There's
It'll
entirely
be,
too much. There is
yeah,
entirely too much.
I think it'll be like next week or the week after when we hit 100. Which is crazy to think. But yeah, patreon.com/the comment writers. Of course, one of the other things you get when you sign up for the Patreon, you get access to the Discord. You do get access to an episode questions channel where you can post any questions you want to see us answer on the show. And we also have another avenue for question asking, and that is our email address, Toby. And that email address is cast@commonwritersucks.com. So speaking of cast@commonwritersucks.com, we do have a couple emails to read this week. Both come in from our friend Shade. First up, I'm going to read them out of order here because I want to talk about this first. Shade writes in and says, a last minute email about Kamen Rider Gav's new announcements. So I was going to bring this up. Happy that Shade sent the email to spur this conversation, Toby. But we have some more info about our next Kamen Rider, which is important because it's going to be a big part of your life and my life going forward.
My concerns have already probably started with insider sources of what this entails, and I thought about it the other day, and it's crazy that like I'm definitely the elder of our little ragtag band of misfits, even to you.
Uh-huh.
And like, it's all fun and games when a new show starts, and then I think about it, and I'm like, no, but this is literally another year of my life.
Yeah.
And then because like, especially with Gotchard wrapping up, I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, Josh and I have been doing this again together for literally like 100 weeks of like counting Geets, and now at Gotchard, like, yeah, like I'm literally, some random person is booking the next year of my life for me, and it just feels weird sometimes.
Yeah, there's an anxiety to it that I was realizing. I felt it a little bit coming into Gotchard, because Geats was so good, and then it's like you said, it's a whole nother sort of year you're signing up for, and I'm feeling it more now. I think because it's like that's really settling in. Of like, oh, like yes, this is the thing that we either really like or we just complain about every single week now. Um, so like you want it to be really good, and what are your thoughts so far with what we've seen so far of Gav? So we basically, if you haven't seen out there in listener land, what we've seen so far of Gav is kind of a teaser image where you can see a little bit of the suit, and he's doing kind of a rider kick with a glowing, kind of orange red foot, and we see a close up of the henshin belt. They're calling it the henshin belt Gav this time, and you get to kind of see what the gimmick looks like and sort of what the belt looks like up close. And we also got basically a Kemi card version of Kamen Rider Gav as well. So, what are your thoughts so far in terms of Gav? Are you worried? You liking what you're seeing? What's your vibe?
So from the best we can do, the suit looks like a bat-ish,
A little bit,
and
yeah.
I think it looks okay. The driver or the belt, I guess we'll call it. By the time I finally learned the drivers,
They change it for you.
they're not going to change it on me. I can't remember words and names as it is. I'm not playing these stupid fucking games with me. Uh, so from looking at the belt, it looks like the gimmick for the henshin is it's going to be a weird hand crank, like
Yeah,
we're turning like a gumball machine almost, just like a side handle and not like the twisty thing for normal gumball machines. So I feel like it's going to be something weird with that. But tied to that, like the practice toy or like the first form toy is basically like a little box of like looks like nerds.
yeah,
And he pops open and he goes from like a nice little happy looking box of nerds to like a little monster yelling. And I feel like if I know they always use the toys in the show, and I feel like it's gonna look extra stupid as just playing with this on the show, like using the toy. Like if it was all CG and like the actual like candy thing was a little more animated. Again, not knowing, maybe it could be, but like from the vibe of how everything else always works in the show, I feel like it's gonna seem real silly. And I don't
yeah.
know if it's gonna be a good silly or a bad silly, but it seems like it's gonna be real silly.
I think that's where my potential fears lie as well, because we're coming off of a season here with Gotchard that I generally have liked, but it has a tone that certainly is less serious than Geats was before it, and featured chemis that are ridiculous, right? They're oftentimes CG, but oftentimes they're also just like plastic toys that they are sort of bouncing around by hand or with wires. And this feels like we're heading in that same vein of like, we're going to have plastic toys that have voices and have personalities, and they're going to be on wires bouncing around talking to our common writer. And it feels like, okay, like I get it because I'm sure that sells toys well. And I get it that like you're aiming for a very specific thing with these toys. But it feels potentially very samey to Gotchard. So it'll be interesting to see if they can make that feel different than just, hey, it's more chemis, but now they're not called chemis anymore. They're called poppin' gummies or whatever.
Yeah, and like so I was joking around with Navigator about like the if we're gonna do forms, like if it's like one form's gummy and one form is whatever. So like you're first gonna say like, oh, there's 5, 6 forms, like marshmallow or sour or hard candy or whatever. Like I feel like there's not gonna be that much variation, which could be better after the season. But I feel like they're really like locking themselves into a very specific gimmick that doesn't like expand that far.
Yeah.
Like Geats' gimmick was like the World Battle Royale. You could do anything. Gotchard had enough Pokemon where it didn't really make a difference. Like we laughed, like, oh, they just skipped 10 this week because why the hell not? There's 90 more to go. But I feel like you can't get that crazy with the candy thing. So
Yeah.
like it's just gonna be
Yeah.
like, oh, here's the base candy form, and here's an extra one, and like I don't know. I don't know how to judge it until we get more stuff, I guess.
Which like they oftentimes will come up with a gimmick where the chemis are interesting because their their physical forms tend to just be they're just cards, right? So like they're all a card that says different art on it. But then the chemis, of course, can pop out and be like a manifestation of what was on the card. So like you can get your physical Hopper 1, but you also get the card gimmick. Where, in season past, the gimmicks would be a lot more samey and subdued. So like, for example, like Kamen Rider Build had those little like bottles, because we saw those recently. And there's just a million different bottles that are different colors. You put them in the little device and it says different words, but like all the bottles kind of look the same. And
Yeah.
I think we'll probably have that here, where like, you stick them in the driver, or excuse me, you stick them in the henshin belt, and like maybe they're different colors, they have different call outs, but like I bet they won't look that different necessarily. Like I bet they'll be pretty similar kind of across the board, is my guess, but I might be wrong. But speaking of build, Toby, so this driver has the handle on it, and Kamen Rider Build's driver also had a crank handle on the side. So people, of course, are making that comparison because the crank handles are very similar
Yeah,
across both of those drivers.
I think we saw him at the end of Xaid, right? Like
Yes.
that was the TZ spoilery thing.
Yep.
And at least his was like, hey, we're using this to mix the chemicals I stole into something new.
Yeah.
So at least like functionally, I feel like that works. But with the way that it looks from the one dumb picture that we get of the little monster that goes in the middle and his little face pops out, I guess it actually feels more like a Jack in the Box to me. Like we're going to crank the Jack in the Box handle. It's going to play a little song, and then the monster's going to pop out and go henshin, and then
Yeah.
he's going to henshin. And I'm calling dibs now. If they crank the handle and the little face of the monster thing yells henshin or does whatever, I'm taking full credit for calling it before the season even started. And that's going to be the best one I ever had.
I think it'll make gobbling noises. I think it'll be like gobble, gobble, gobble. I think it'll be like that. So yeah, I'll call that now. If you crank the handle and
noises.
And it goes gobble, 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 then I'm a genius. I think overall though, from what I've seen so far, obviously we haven't seen the suit in action, and we really haven't seen like a good full shot of it without other things going on the screen. But like I think it looks cool. Like I like the purple and yellows and stuff. I think that can be neat. They keep talking in the text about it being transparent, which it'll be interesting to see if they ever actually like try to make his body transparent, or kind of what that'll mean. But
if they do that, that seems like, so as we know, the show has the good CG and the bad CG.
Yep.
And if we're gonna make like an invisible hero, they're gonna have to do some sort of either like wavy haze like Predator, so you know where he is, or make him look like glass, I guess, to make him transparent.
Sure.
And I feel like that can go horribly wrong depending on how good this looks. Like that's something that could easily look shitty, and then we're stuck with it for a whole season.
Yep. Yeah, totally. I think one thing though, to as a consolation, or like to calm our nerves about this potentially, like we also know, we've talked about it in terms of like emails and stuff, and we've noted it in the shows that we're watching. But like the directors, like there's sort of the toys, right? They design those up front for a Kamen Rider, and then there's the show. And the directors kind of get to do what they want with the show. Yes, they have to feature the toys, but like sometimes they just sort of do anything that they want and they just put the toys in it, right? So it isn't always necessarily like the case where like the gimmick and the toys really dictate much of the story. Um, I don't know. We just, if you think about kind of the history there of Kamen Rider and some of the weird juxtapositions between like what the driver was hinting at versus what actually happened in the story, they sometimes are very far apart. So who knows what happens?
I guess we'll have to wait and see, like the people say.
Yep. So Shade in this email, he's of course sends pictures and stuff of the promotional materials, and then continues on with some fascinating news about the production team. Kamen Rider Geats' main director will also be in charge of directing Kamen Rider Gav. So, Geats was awesome. Hopefully that's a promising news. So it's safe to assume that the action will be bombastic all year round. So far, they have not announced the writer yet, so I'm guessing it's a fan favorite, familiar face, or someone entirely new. Also, very funny story, Kamen Rider have sold regular gummies in the past, and for some reason, people are predicting that the kid from the Kamen Rider gummy commercial will be Gav. So there's uh, let's see, I think it's gummies from Gaim. Yeah, so there's a kid who eats the gummy and then like throws his head back. I'm just like, yeah, this gummy's amazing. So I guess that's what people are predicting is Gav. I don't know if there's any insider information there, but that would be hilarious. Um, then she says, that's it for the announcements this week. No freaking clue why they decided to drop everything on a Monday morning all of a sudden. This usually happens on Sunday. And then, so what do you guys think of what we've seen so far? Personally, I'm feeling conflicted. Gav's suit doesn't look terrible, but I can't really make out what it is when I see it. Maybe the show itself will give more context as to why he looks like that. The gummies look cute, but I can see them being fun collectibles, but the belt looks very ugly. I'm not a huge fan of the hand crank as well. It fits Kamen Rider Build's aesthetics a lot, but it doesn't look good here. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, like there isn't. I guess the belt as a whole, like the aesthetics of it, are clearly referencing like a Japanese. I don't even have the word for it, but it has like a face, right? Like you can see teeth and you can see
Yeah.
eyes, and I'm assuming that it's some sort of like, you know, historical Japanese fairy tale thing or something that's referencing that I'm not understanding. So maybe the handle ties into that in some way, but yeah, it also just looks a little mechanical because it has like fake pipes and stuff and air vents on the bottom, so that sort of fits the handle too. But yeah, the handle is a little out of left field. We'll have to see how it all works.
And then my last comment on the candy toys. If for some reason, because we're making great jokes about it in our Patreon Discord, if they make the toys come in some sort of collectible thing like Kinder Eggs, where I can buy like a blind box of dumb little candy toys, I will once again be buying things for openings on our Patreon, much like I did for our Kamen Rider Chemi cards openings. So everyone should hope that they make that kind of thing, and then you should sign up for the Patreon so that I can waste my money for all of you. That's the trade.
That will be very fun to do. However, for the sake of the fandom, I do hope that it's not blind boxes again this time. I'm sure that it will be because, you know, it worked. It worked with the stupid Chemi card, so why would they not continue to try to milk money from people? But you know, that's annoying. When it's
There are no pre-orders yet for it. I double checked like during this conversation just to make sure.
Yeah.
So far so good. I can't buy blind boxes of things.
but soon probably. And then Shade sends us in one other email about Gotchard this week, so let's jump into that. Hello everyone, it's time for more Gotchard. Garion returns and he's back to his regular shenanigans, giving everyone who mentions his name PTSD. Something a little funny from last week's episode I'd like to talk about. Last time Josh praised a lot of the action and listed a bunch of cool things that they did, like drone shots, civilian fights, and flashy explosions, etc. By doing that, he unintentionally listed the entirety of Koichi Sakamoto's directing style. I think Josh has seen enough Koichi Sakamoto directed shows to recognize the style now, lol. Granted, he also directed a lot of Power Rangers too. Speaking of recognizing a director's style, this episode, the one we're talking about today, is directed by Kiyotaka Takaguchi, again, the Ultraman guy. What's funny about this is that I didn't even read about this beforehand. I just saw those claustrophobic looking close-up shots, and in my head, I thought, wait, is this Taguchi again? I guess I've also seen enough of his work to recognize the style. And I also, I couldn't remember his name at all, Shade, but I was watching the show, and I saw those weird, like, close-up face shots, and I saw the weird, like, shot from, like, the ground at an angle up at everyone, and I'm like, this is that Ultraman dude that we've talked about before. Like, I clued into it, too. I was right there with you. It definitely is a distinctive style. Excuse me. And then Shade links a couple interesting tidbits from the producer's blog this time around. The first, we see a group photo featuring Garion in this episode, and it was actually taken in the basement of Toei's headquarters, which is fun. Which they say is a very old building.
New location.
Has a show of feel to it. So yeah, brand new location. And if you look closely at the picture, You will see director Taguchi, producer Minato, and other staff members appearing as the other alchemists. So that's cute. Nice little cameo there. And then, of course, you were maybe a little confused, Toby, because I was a little confused. But because the Kemi featured in this episode is an incomplete Kemi, that is Kamadun, to be specific, Kamadun didn't react to malice to become Amalgam. So Mommy in this episode, who turns into the Amalgam, isn't necessarily a bad person. She knows what Garion did and still wants to protect her research and all the children from him, but she still can't let go of her old feelings for him, and some part of her still wishes to meet him again. So she has unstable emotions, and this is an unstable Kemi. So you pair an unstable Kemi with unstable emotions, and you get an unstable Amalgam. So there you go.
That is good math. That's like basic alchemy.
That is. So Shade, thanks very much for the email. Once again, emails can be sent to cast@commonwritersucks.com. And of course, once again, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/thecommentwriters. It's a lot of fun over there. So, Toby, let's jump in and talk about episode 42 here of Gotchard, because this is a crazy episode. There's a lot that happens here. There's a lot of lore building and a lot of like implications, I feel like, from this episode. So
there's a lot of lore and stories. So we're gonna call them lories, and then we're gonna go from there.
Yep, we got lories for days. So this episode opens, of course, we know last time Garion is back, and we are inside of like the Philosopher's Stone, I guess. As this episode opens, it's like this very like hazy world where Galia and what's his face, Gigas are talking. Yeah, it's not Jermaine. He's the dead one. So they're talking, and very quickly Garion shows up and basically is like, "Yo, what up? I'm here too. I've got Jermaine's body, and there's nothing you could do about it." He kind of taunts them. He says that they're going to be his dolls in the future. So basically, he just kind of puts them on blast, and they're like, "Oh, what?" So
and he at least keeps doing this cool thing where like the old mask from the dead one keeps kind of like phasing through his real face while he's doing the threats, and like the visual is actually pretty cool. Of like, no, he's inside of me now. Like I'm the boss, and like kind of almost like a threat of like, I'll let the power come back out, and you guys are screwed if I do this.
Yeah, it's creepy too. That visual, yeah, it definitely is effective. Then, of course, quickly we cut back over to the academy, and it blows
wackiness
by
and tails.
Oh my god, wackiness and tails! It blows by really fast. But Kudo has books from her dad, so her dad's nowhere to be found again. I thought this guy was going to be on this freaking show every week. Now that he's back, I thought he was going to be like part of the team. He's not around, but she did bring his book to Minato, and basically she's like, "This might be like forbidden alchemy," and they all kind of decide like, "We got to do what we got to do." So I don't know what sort of forbidden alchemy they're getting down to, but they're up to some nefarious stuff apparently.
I feel like they just hand wove her dad off the rest of the series.
They freaking did. Yeah.
And since he's giving her books and they're palling around like off screen, we'll never have to address him again.
No,
like I'm pretty sure like that his arc that we asked for to be finished is finished now, and he's back and he's living. But I think we'll just never see him again. Like it's just done now.
Yeah, I think that this was indication that is 100% true. Like if he is sending help off screen, I don't think they have any intention of bringing that actor back. Which is, or maybe crazy.
Like if there's one final battle at the end for like the actual final battles,
yeah, maybe
ish thing. I'm sure he'll come once more to just help out a little bit, but that's definitely about it. Like he's done.
Yeah, I think so. And then you mentioned shenanigans, so those start off right quick here, because Hodoro is carrying these two vials that are sort of like steaming and smoking. And
I appreciated that they like you can watch the dry ice bubble around the bottom of them.
Yep, you can.
Or whatever they use to make the bubbles in the steam. But like, for whatever reason, this was okay slapstick to me because like you knew shit was gonna go bad. Like,
yeah, you knew. But and it does go bad. He spills it on Kudo, and turns out it's freeze in place formula, and Kudo freezes in place. She can't move, except she spends the entire time she's on screen moving constantly, even though she's supposed to be stuck. She keeps like moving her leg and like moving around a little bit, but she's stuck on the ground. Toby can't be moved.
She's not very good at freeze tag, and she effectively is there pretty much the rest of the episode.
Yeah, we pretty much leave her there.
So Kudo's big ad this week was talking to her dad off screen that no one saw, and then playing freeze tag and getting frozen to the ground.
Yeah, definitely. Her whole contribution was she tied up herself and Renge so they couldn't be involved in the rest of the story. Like they didn't want those two characters there, so they had to figure out some way to keep them away from the rest of the episode.
So we used magic and science.
After this, Spanner shows up and he has basically a video from Kyoka, and they have what they think is the 102nd Kemi, a video basically of the Kemi. And Sabi immediately recognizes this area and wants to go check it out. Hodoro points out like, "Oh, you seem like more chipper than normal." Okay. So Sabi and Hodoro end up getting sent out to go investigate, and then Spanner has to tag along too. He calls it babysitting. So the three of them head out into the woods. And immediately shenanigans ensue because they think they see the Kemi. They try to chase after it. Sabi tries to stop them, but then they hit an invisible wall and a man appears. This man, Toby, is Sabi's brother, Sabi's older brother, Keiichi.
So with the familial ties here, we've gotten rid of Kudo's dad, so that salary is now freed up for Sabi's brother, a person never mentioned in the entire series, but coming out on episode 42 with a handful of episodes ago.
Yep, indeed. We get a lot of Sabi backstory here because the first thing that happens, we meet the brother. The brother instantly uses alchemy to remove this hidden wall to reveal the what is it called? The Congo Laboratories.
A very cool looking building.
Yes, this institute gets revealed that wasn't there before, kind of in this jungle in this forest, but then suddenly it's there. So turns out, I guess, little summary here. We go inside, we meet Kongo Mami, the director of the lab, and we find out Kiichi is kind of the head of research at the lab. And this group is, well, essentially they're a splinter organization from the main alchemy union. They've been out here kind of in hiding now for a while, researching chemies, and like specifically like researching alchemical transmutation of a complete soul. That's how they explain it. So they're trying to basically create new chemies.
Yeah,
and
in dumb people Toby language, they're trying to make their own chemies, which is the most illegal of things,
yes,
as per the shadowy figures who don't really do anything and just sit and watch what happens.
And this scene was so interesting to me because she's kind of like being a little cagey about what they're doing and kind of what their goals are, and then finally is sort of like, yeah, this is what we're doing. And Spanner's like, so you're creating chemies? He's like, that's against the alchemy rules. And she's just like, well, the academy was, or the union was run by Garion, so we don't really respect their authority anymore. We've split off on our own. Like, oh, so you're just like the separatists. Okay, you're just this weird rebel faction hanging out in the forest, creating weird chemies. It's interesting from a world building perspective to find out that there are splinter alchemy groups out there, because the view that they've painted of it so far is that it is a very insular community. If you do alchemy, you have to be involved with the alchemy union, and that the heads of the alchemy union basically get final say, right? Like if something that they say is a no-go, right? If they have rules, we cannot break those rules, or basically like you can't do alchemy anymore, right? Like you're done. Like, and then to find out there's this whole other group that's just like, yeah, we just didn't agree with that, so we're not going to do it. It's crazy. It's so weird that we're getting all of this, like I said, this lore in episode 42 randomly.
Well, like I wrote down the statement for more so when we do the end of the episode summary. But since we basically talked about it now, I'll just mention it now. It's one of the craziest things to me that this far into the show, with it almost being over, we're acknowledging the fact that people could have been making chemis the whole time.
Yeah.
And this definitely seems like this could have been like a fun episode 20 arc where you have a couple episodes tied together of like, oh, by the way, like we have all these alchemy rules, we do all these things by the book, but oh no, there's a splinter group and they're making their own. And by the way, it's Sabi's brother. Holy shit, what a spin. Like,
yeah.
Now it just feels like it's a cool idea, like you said, and all the stuff they show with it going down the road is very cool. But it just seems like the drop time of this seems off to me.
Yeah, it seems crazy because it also goes even further than this. It's not just this like splinter group. Like it's where Sabimaru grew up. Like he lived here when he was a kid, and they show sort of the classrooms. They have other kids here. Like they have, it's a whole like school, clearly from a very young age. They show very young kids that are learning here about chemi, and like they while they're kind of like wandering around like learning about the place, they walk up to a wall where the kids have drawn pictures with crayon of like every chemi. Like every chemi is represented. And some of them are like very cute, and you can recognize which chemi that they're doing, which is fun. But again, the implications there are wild when you start thinking about it. It's like, okay, so you have these like this like weird alchemy boot camp that these kids are living like hidden out in the forest to learn about chemis. Like, what what does that mean? Are they allowed to leave? Like Sabi left. Like clearly they're allowed to leave, I guess. But like he's getting the shade from his brother because he's here now. Clearly the brother is like upset about him leaving, maybe. And it's just like there's a lot that you can ask questions or that this could lead to. It probably won't get too much further than that, but it's interesting.
Yeah, at most, I expect next week to wrap up the chemi school here.
Yeah, I'm sure. But we'd wondered before. So Hodoro has flashbacks where he remembers Hopper 1 being with him when he was a kid, right? And we kept being like, well, how does that work? How did he do that? I was like, well, maybe he was at a place just like this, right? Like maybe he was learning about chemis at a weird chemi academy. Just like Sabi was, and that would be a perfectly reasonable thing to happen.
Now it quote unquote all makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's funny because like you said about the brother being pissed when they were outside before they went back into the school. When Sabi and his brother are fighting, kind of walk away. Gotchard kind of like questions it, and Spanner's like, "Well, it's just what siblings do, or that's just a sibling thing."
Yeah.
And Gotchard makes the best dopey face of like, I can't process the information you just gave me. Of like, wait, people argue with each other when you're family.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And then with the school stuff, with the little kids, from after they actually get into the school, there's a little girl that has her own Isaac, and her and Spanner pal around the rest of the episode, and it's like the best combination of two people that have been in the entire show.
I agree. The girl's name is Arumi. Yeah, she's got her own Isaac. She's first of all, her introduction to Spanner is she's like, I'll tell you the secrets about this place, and he bites it hook, line, and sinker. He's like, yes, let's do it.
Because he probably thought he was too smart for the little girl, and would like he was going to play her for a fool, but she got him instead.
Because she's doing word games with him. She's playing this like word game, and he's supposed to use. I think like he's supposed to use like words that start with a certain letter because he doesn't do it right. And she's like, "Have you never played word chain before?" His quote back is like, "You know that I'm a super A ranked alchemist, right?" It's very good. I love that she sticks around too. Like I like that she's outside when they fight later.
Oh, that's like, wow. Great. And it's funny to see like because they like one of the things is they explain Isaac is supposed to be like a super cool helper AI made by Sabi's brother. Like that was the big thing. So it's kind of cool that Sabi's been using an Isaac the whole time because it's kind of like a tie to his family now. But it's also funny because the little girl is like sociable and doesn't do the whispers that Sabi does. So it's just funny to see like, oh yeah, like if you're not shy, it works the same way. So it'd be like me talking to you and be like, oh Josh, I'm gonna Google this real quick, and then Isaac just talks. Yeah, it's just cool to see. Like, it's cool to see it wasn't just a special thing to help Sabi's shyness. It was actually just the thing that everyone has, but it helps with Sabi's shyness.
Yeah, I always assumed that it was a device that like either he had made to overcome his shyness or yeah, like it was something that they'd bought specifically because of his personality
His
quirks. But
mumbles.
yeah, it's interesting that it's not that. Yeah. Yeah, they so yeah, like you said, it's like AI mixed with chemis, and Hodoro eats that up. He was like, "Oh my god!" So then, like, he like talks about basically like, "Oh, the perfect world of humans and chemis interacting, and this will help." And um, like the brother's excited about it, but then he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing a lot of cool research here. You're interrupting." To Sabi, get out of my hair, man.
And then like the one quote when they're explaining what the lab part of chemi school's for, and when Gotchard starts getting all hyped, or Hood or whatever, about how the AI stuff would help with chemis and understanding each other and stuff. I kind of feel like the school or that science part has to stay until the end now, because at some part the show I feel like has to wrap up with chemis and humans living together peacefully,
Yeah,
and without the by the way, Isaac is good for this spin. Like at least we're like adding like little baby steps to gear up the last couple weeks here of, well, we gave you hints like the past 10 weeks of, well, we know the Gon dinosaur guy, he just wants to help people and make them happy and find their gotcha kinda, and he's a good moral support. And now we know there's computer software that can,
yeah,
help us understand what chemis need and where they come from. And now there's a lab where, maybe if maybe there's not a wrestler G kind of chemi, even though there is one, but for the sake of conversation, maybe someone wants a wrestler pal. Now we know they can make wrestler chemis if they want to. Like
yeah. We could fuse one. Yeah,
yeah, they're giving themselves tons of outs and openings or ties to. Well, when we tell you at the end of the show, even if we just like stealth drop, by the way, the world's fine and chemis are still here. They've given us enough backstory and pieces to be like, well, they said all these things and showed us all this, so I guess we can just accept it.
yeah. I totally agree, 100%. Especially the Isaac stuff. Like they went out of their way to talk about it being a translation device for humans and chemis. That it seems clear that they are setting up an ending potentially where like, oh, and then humans just use Isaacs to interface with chemis and it is full Detective Pikachu, and we're all good from that point on. Yeah, I think 100% that these things are going to play into the end. And that's probably why they're introduced now, so that they can have those that paper trail for when we get to the ending.
Yeah.
We also cut back to mommy, to Congo mommy herself, and she is stressing out basically in her lab. She is looking at a photo of her team, and the revelation here is that Garion is in the front of the photo. Clearly, at some point, he factored in very heavily to the research at this lab, and she clearly has a pretty personal relationship with him.
She
But we're
loved
not.
them. That was your secret or not so secret crush.
Yeah, it seems like there was a romantic relationship with them for sure. The way that she behaves. But she has a hallucination that Garion is kind of behind her, and he's kind of saying like, "Hey, it came back for you," and she basically shakes him off and like is like, "No, I'm gonna protect this place no matter what," and she kind of like tries to get away from like the memory of him. But while she does that, as the scene cuts away, we see her go full Malgam form, basically, like the little Kemi kind of overtakes her. And then this leads, of course, to the rampaging Malgam. So we go outside, we hear noises, we go outside, there's a big explosion, and they see this Kemi. They assume it's the new Kemi, and fighting happens. So
It's
Spanner,
Blastoise.
exactly, the Kemi is Blastoise. They note throughout the battle that it's phasing forms. Sometimes it looks like a turtle, and sometimes it looks like a tank, basically like a cannon, and it's kind of flipping back and forth, and clearly it doesn't have control over these transformations.
And
And we
even like when it's the bad half, it's talking ish,
a little bit,
and,
yeah,
and it's doing a good job of saying more positive things, and then like the negative, like I'm a monster things. So
yeah,
there's even like the personality both personalities and both sides of the Blastoise.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's clear that Sabimaru recognizes the Kemi that's going back and forth. He clearly knows more than we know that he knows here at this point. And then we quickly find out potentially why. Because back in the classroom, Kudo's still frozen. Renge has been trying to unfreeze her.
Well,
Renge has
Renge
prepared.
got frozen too.
Yeah, well, she gets frozen too, but she gets frozen because she prepares an anti-freeze formula, but it goes wrong and freezes herself. So while they're frozen, there's not much they can do. They see a drawing of Sabimaru's that is on the ground that got kind of jostled when they first froze Kudo, and clearly, like, it's a drawing that then Sabi like went back and like crossed out, like he blacked it all over, and she uses alchemy to remove the blackout so they can see what the drawing was. And lo and behold, it is a turtle with a cannon on its back. So when he was a child, he was drawing pictures of this weird Blastoise, this weird Blastoise Kemi, and now he knows that this weird Blastoise Kemi has come to life. And to get a little bit out of order, we find out later that Kemi basically is the core of their research here at this research center. It's sort of the first Kemi that they focused on. They've been working for however many years, 10 years, on trying to make this Kemi whole. They didn't think that they had accomplished it yet, but clearly they have. They've made more progress than they thought because it's broken out and now it is rampaging through the body of Congo Mommy. So they attempt to capture the Kemi. They fight the Kemi. They can't really defeat it, and it runs off basically. So then this is when we re-meet the director and we find out that she is the Kemi. I thought it was interesting in this scene that she throws a ton of shade at Keiichi because she's like, yeah, this is the Kemi we've been working on. And if he would just stop with this stupid AI stuff, we would have figured this out a long time ago.
It's because he always loved his little brother. He always wanted to make the Blastoise of his dreams and fucking around with Isaac and everything else.
I think both things are going to be true. I think that, like, oh, you made this Kemi true because your brother designed it or whatever, and there's going to be that kind of touching moment. And then also I think we're going to find out at some point that he made Isaac to help Sabimaru get over his social anxiety. I think
nice
both
brother.
things. Yeah, I think we're going to find out that he, like, all of his stuff, his entire motivation has been to help Sabimaru. Spanner, of course, has some good quotes here, kind of in a very utilitarian fashion. I'm just like, yeah, this Kemi is on the loose. We have to deal with it. Also, you guys shouldn't be trying to make Kemis. That's super dangerous. And also, you shouldn't be putting Kemis and AI together because that just means the Kemis are going to get like copied all over the place on the internet and they're going to spread like crazy. He was like, we need to shut this down. Which I appreciate. It fits with some of the things he's been saying recently of just like, no, Kemis are tools. Like, we're not going to do this. And he's now presented with this research group that is this like clearly very focused on human Kemi interactions. And he's just, his very first reaction is just like, no, we're not doing this. we are stopping right now. And then of course Spanner sees the photo of Garion on the table and he looks back at the director. He realizes there's more than she's letting on, and then she goes full Malgam and we have another fight. I really liked at the beginning of this fight. So it starts inside, and then we always laugh about like a fight will start inside and then they'll jump and they'll be outside, and you were like, how'd they get there? This one they actually show, because the fight starts inside, they knock down a wall to go outside.
Kicks him through the garage door.
Yeah, we get to actually see that happen, and I thought that was such a cool transition that we don't normally ever see. This fight's insane. there are things that happen in this fight that are so crazy, Toby. First, at some point, Hodoro wants to borrow Mad Wheel from Spanner. Spanner's like, oh, I'm not a charity, but he tosses it over anyway. Hodoro summons basically the pirate ship Gotchard, if you remember that we've
I
seen
did
before.
before
And
before I hear the bullshit again of like, oh, the pirate ship the go kart was in episode 6. Don't you remember? Yeah, I do
oh,
remember because it looks
yeah,
like a freaking Wario, not Wario, a Wario Mario Kart car. I
it really
remember. I
does. Yeah.
remember.
And it wrecks house here. It comes up, it smacks the amalgam, it picks it up, it slaps it across the face a couple times, and then it just throws it, just launches it. I really, really liked how much it worked over the amalgam. But then the craziness doesn't stop there because Hodoro basically ushers Spanner onto the pirate ship, kind of tells him to duck. At one point, he's like, "Sorry about your butt," and he loads Spanner into the cannon,
That was
and
my favorite part.
he fires him. He fires him out of the cannon, and then he fires himself out of the cannon to do the big rider kick finish. And the fact that Spanner allowed Hodoro to load him into a cannon and shoot him is hilarious.
I didn't take it. I feel like Spanner didn't really know what was about to happen there.
I think so too. Yeah, I think it
Because
was
like
all like,
the
"What are we
way he
doing? What
was
are we
doing
doing?"
the gentle nudges, like Hutter was doing gentle nudges, it was like, "Hey, can you come stand next to the cannon for a second?" And Spanner is like, "Yeah, whatever." And he's like, "No, just duck down a little bit. All right, take one more step to the left. Go here." And
That's
I think he even
perfect.
says sorry. I feel like he even says sorry that he does it.
He might have, yeah. And the next thing you see is just Spanner's head pop out of the cannon. It was good. It was very funny. Like it was very slapstick, but um it worked on me. The humor worked on me
Yeah. Spanner said, "I'll get you back for this." That was his final
there.
line before he got shot out of the cannon.
That's perfect. That's really, really good. I feel like Spanner saying at the beginning, like, "No, this is just what siblings do." Like, I think he looks at Hodoro now as kind of a brother, and he's like, "Well, yeah, I want to murder you all of the time." So that makes perfect sense. Of course, that's the big finish. So the amalgam is air quotes defeated. We do get the card, the Commandant card for a bit, but unfortunately, as the episode's ending, the Kemi kind of falls out of the card, turns into this grime.
Ink bloop.
Yeah, the weird ink bloop that falls to the ground. So clearly, we don't have the Kemi. It's too unstable to be on the card. The director is, hoping that they protect the place. She's pretty hurt after the battle. She kind of passes out, but like her last things that she says is like, "Protect this place." Uh, and then we see Garion to end the episode. He's walking through a forest. I think we are supposed to assume that it is this forest, and he's coming for the Congo laboratory. So ending on a bit of a cliffhanger there.
We need a couple because we're running out of time here.
Indeed. So yeah, lot going on there. What are your thoughts of the episode?
I think it was all pretty good. Like I said, the main thing was the main extra note that we talked about earlier was I feel like dropping Chemi School is weird thing to do at the end, but at least it's giving us the breadcrumbs to follow back to when this all becomes reality and Kemi's are best friends and everything. And the whole like the lab stuff in specific is very cool, I think. It was a good episode. It was way
Yeah.
better than some of their dumb bullshit we've seen some of the other weeks. But it's good.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah. It had some goofy, silly slapstick stuff. If they want to do that, I was completely okay with all the slapstick this episode. I thought it was generally pretty funny. And like the kudo stuff was good, and the shooting out of a cannon stuff was good. But then yeah, we got a ton of story lore drop, which I loved. I if this wa- if Kamen Rider Gotchard was Star Wars, this would have been a really good episode to set up like a dozen different like extended universe books. Like oh, we're gonna go tell the backstory of Congo Laboratories, and like we're gonna tell that story, or like, oh, we're gonna go follow a kid who's in the Congo Laboratories, like learning about chemis, and we're gonna tell that kid's story. And like it just feels like it's like so many different branches that could pass from this one episode of story. Like we're not gonna get, I don't think, any of those, but it certainly from a an interest perspective from the story and kind of where their world goes, I think this is a really interesting episode because it definitely paints a lot of interesting pictures and makes a lot of interesting connections, kind of how all this works, how all this fits together. Hopefully we get to meet all kinds of other crazy chemis and crazy splinter groups as we continue to go. Who knows?
I feel like the best ending will admit they'll have like you can go to like Build-A-Bear and make your own bear and like decorate them kind and do things, or like there's tons of kid driven ish stores where it's like, hey, make your own ice cream flavor, make your own crayon color, make your own this. And I really hope that now that we sowed the seeds of, in the lab we can make whatever chemis we want to.
Yeah.
I really hope the ending is just like they make like chemi, like gacha machines, basically, where kids just put in like, I want to mix a bat and a banana, and just it pops out chemis, and like the final scene is just millions of chemis of all sorts of shapes, sizes, mashups, whatever, just all flying around together doing things.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, certainly a crazy episode, and lots to unpack. Love to hear your thoughts on the episode. So if you're in the Discord, let us know in one of the Gotchard channels what you thought about the episode. And if you're not in the Discord, send us in an email. We'd love to hear your thoughts on kind of where Gotchard is at right now, and how it's all going as we kind of near the end. And also your thoughts on the Gav stuff. I'm interested to hear what the general fandom thinks about what we've seen of Gav so far, and if they're excited about the show or kind of where the feelings are. Also, of course, the patreon.com/the comment writers. Check that out. $3 a month. Tons and tons of bonus content that you will get access to, and new stuff every single week. So once again, patreon.com/the comment writers. And that is going to wrap us up. So Toby, where can the people find you on the internet?
On Twitter, it's @LifeOfTobes, and on YouTube, it's Tobes Plays.
I'm Pretty Dece Josh on Twitter, meek.lol on Blue Sky, and Pretty Dece on YouTube. All right, so that's going to do it for us for this week, talking about episode 42. But we will be back, as always, next week to cover Gotchard episode 43. And we hope that you join us back for that. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.